Hello all and welcome to the channel. Today I'm continuing my top 100 with 60 to 50.01. Now I have been under the weather recently, so I'll try my best to get through this without coughing and spluttering. So here we go then. First we have a game called Pret-a-Porter, if you can pronounce that correctly. So this one is a heavier game, and what a beast of a game. You know, first impressions, you're looking at the cover and you're like, right, it's a game about fashion, and it absolutely is, but there's some core economic running of a business and aspects to be thinking about of demand and supply and materials and all this goodness. And essentially it says you're running an economic strategy game set in the world of fashion, pure and simple. Now it plays 2 to 4 players. I've tried this with 2 players only. I daren't try it with 3 or certainly not 4, just because of the table hog and the presence this game has. Equally the time left. Now it says 90 minutes. I would be shocked if you can play this game in 90 minutes. Just setting up alone takes a little while, and the put down, but I think 2.5 to 3 hours is typically been, you know, the playing time for me, and heavy complexity. Now in this one, you essentially have your own player board, and you'll be expanding this with various businesses, sort of bolt-ons that will give you extra efficiencies and benefits throughout the game. You'll also be able to hire staff, and depending on how many little businesses you add on, the more staff you can add. But you're going through the board in this kind of numerical fashion, 1 down to like 13. And that's what's great in this. You've got this worker placement aspect. You decide to go here to get a loan. Maybe you go here to get a worker and bolt that on, or maybe you go to get the raw material. So there's this race aspect to get to certain spots, like any good old worker placement game. But here, you know, you want to get the right materials to then be able to design these certain garments you're making, because the whole game is about taking these to the fashion shows, and there's so many of those in a year, and you'll be getting, you know, awarded points for having the most trend or the most PR or the best garments of certain colors and various, you know, allocation of things you're trying to target here. But that's the crux of the game. You're building your business in the fashion industry to make the most points from these fashion shows. But there's just loads of juicy things to like here. At the bottom, you've got competition over what sort of quality garments, and, you know, to make these garments and the raw materials to do that. Are you going to try and attain some are more costly? Are you going to go for more PR? And you're having to look at the variability of these competitions and what they're striving for. Now, again, yeah, 2-player works really well. I'm just not even interested to try this at higher player counts. I just think the length of play and the decision process would just be too much. It'd take the fun out of the game. And this is one of the very few games I've actually stood up throughout most of the game in just pure joy and excitement as to what I want to do next and what my opponent is going to do. It's that, you know, exciting and enthralling. So yes, Pret-a-Porter, what a beast. Now, you're probably thinking, he's raving about this game. Why is it, you know, here, not higher? Well, mainly because it is a bit of a beast to teach. You know, you're going to need that first play to really understand how you're going to make the most of these points and what you're trying to do. And I just think, you know, you struggle to get this one to a gaming group. You really need someone you can play it with often enough. So for me, it's just a little bit low on the list for accessibility and ease of play and sort of teaching. But once you can get around, you know, how it all flows, you're in for an excellent time, guys. So that's Pret-a-Porter. Right. Next up, we have, what is it? It is Logistico. Right, Logistico. We're on the opposite end of the spectrum here. We're on, you know, really lightweight game here. And this game, you know, if you can find a copy, is sort of pure pick up and deliver. So you've got this kind of map here, and you will be moving your free transportation methods. So you've got your ship, you've got your truck, and you've got your plane. Now your plane's a little bit more rigid, but it can still dot from island to island. And the essence of the game is just to make the most money. And you've got this sort of cash flow tracked around the outside of the map. And you'll be spending cash flow depending on how many actions you take. And this is what I really like about this game is you decide to do 2 or 3 actions, it's going to cost you, you know, a little bit of money. But the more actions you want to try and achieve, then proportionally you're spending more money. And that's interesting because you want to do more actions. You want to get these cubes to meet these goods and meet the demand of various other locations with these sort of cylinders. And as you meet the demand, you get paid out. But you get very little payout early on in the game, and as the game progresses, the payouts get better. So you've got this kind of sort of balancing act of, do I spend more money on actions to move my cargo ship here and slowly load it up for the bigger payouts later on, but then there's ongoing costs of holding this cargo, or do you go for the short returns and try and get the money now? So really test your ability to manage cash flow, how many actions to take, and logistics, as in the name Logistica, because you're trying to then balance, if I can get my ship to go here and then load that cargo onto the island here, and then my truck can take it over here and score points for meeting the demand of that city. But then hold on, my plane could do that more efficiently from over there to here. So you're constantly dropping cargo off, trying to avoid these charges for leaving cargo on your transport, because that costs you as well. So it's a very streamlined game. There's not too much to it, but what it does bring is great. Now, this one is 2 to 5 players. I played it 2, 3, and 4 players. 3 players is the sweet spot for me. It does work well with 2, but I just think 2 players, one person's ebbing away, and they might have a little bit more luck over certain parts of the board where, the colour formations have randomly been dealt, but better match where they are. 3 players, you're really jostling to get position, and there's just a little bit more excitement in it. It says it takes 60 minutes, which is bang on, but it could be even slightly quicker, this 45 minutes, and it's lightweight game, but lots to like. If you like pick up and deliver, you need to find a copy of this, guys. Right, next up, we have a game all about bidding the most money, unlimited money here, and it's called QE. And what a fascinating game in the sense of it brings something not many people really, maybe know about, but quantitative easing. And this just has a little bit of fun with it. Now, essentially, you can bid anything to bail out companies, but just don't bid the most. And it's got an interesting mechanic, something like Hab and Gut, where one of you will go out. If you've bid the most and you're bidding ludicrous amounts, like billions, zillions, whatever it may be, to win these businesses, you've overspent and obviously you're going to be out there. So you have to manage how much you're going to spend, and it brings an interesting dynamic. And the concept of the game is about trying to bid on these various companies, and there's nationalizations. There's various like Japan, Britain, if you're playing a sort of 5-player game there, the US, and you're trying to bid on these industries to attain them because you're set collecting these and you're scoring a host of points. Maybe you've got the most of one, or you've got one of each set. Maybe you've done a couple of zero bids on things. You can get points in all sorts of ways there. But there's this mechanic where you take turns, and you will see, you'll set the opening bid, and then everyone bids their bids, and you will see everyone's bid, but they can't see it. So you kind of have disclosure over what can be seen. And then you sort of see who the highest bidder is. You secretly hand that person the win token. They've won the company, but no one else knows how much they bid. So someone might be bidding sort of $400 and someone else is bidding $1 million, but the person who's bidding 400 is like, okay, next time I need to up my bid. And maybe they up it to like 10,000 thinking I'm going to win it this time. And the other person's bidding 10 million. So you're trying to figure out where your opponents are bidding. That's what's unique in this game. But equally, if you're bidding 10 million each time and everyone else is bidding 10,000, then you're obviously going to be the one who spent the most. And that is going to come to haunt you at the end of the game, because you'll have spent the most, you'll be out, and the person who was bidding 20,000, 30,000 actually takes the win. But there's lots to like here. It plays in 45 minutes, which is bang on, 3 to 5 players. I've played 4 and 5 players. I'm not really sure how I'd want to play with 3. I think the more players, the better in this one, and certainly brings in a 5-player, the Great Britain, which is worth doing. It's a low complexity game. I have heard that the expansion really elevates this game as well. I can't remember what it was called. Commodities, I think it is. Maybe brings in gold and shorting as well. So I'd be very curious to try that one, but lots to like from QE. Next up then, we have Smoothie Wars. Now, bear with me. This is a game that a lot of people might not have heard of. I have reviewed on the channel. It's out there to purchase if you can find a copy. But in this game, sellers compete to sell smoothies at different locations on a tropical island. Now, there's a lot of games falling in the top 10 this week, which are kind of very simple streamlined games, and this is one of them. The concept is where each of you will be bidding a number of smoothies you wish to sell. You'll then choose the price, and it's very simple, like $1, $2, $3, $4, and the location, and that's pretty much it. The cost price is, I believe it's $1 per smoothie you sell, but it's this meta game of looking at your opponents going, right, where are you going to be going on this board? And there's only like 4 locations. You've got an event card that's revealed, and there's some dice as well, but that's just, minuscule part of the game. But that will determine an impact on some of the areas and the pricing offered there. But you're then looking at the board going, well, I could go here, which is maybe not as an attractive pricing proposition, but maybe sell more smoothies there for a better price and make more profit. Whereas maybe everyone's going to go to this other location where the price is higher and they can make more profit. But if there's more people who go there, depending on what price point you went at, you might not actually sell anything. Maybe you've gone rock bottom price, you sell them, and you've made, a small profit there. Someone else has gone there thinking, oh, I'll make a bigger profit, but then they didn't even get a chance to sell them. So this is pure sort of demand, supply, and price in here. And it's definitely a game I would recommend in an educational setting. The player count goes 3 to 8 players. I've only tried it with 3 players, and I think it would really work well with more players. There's just lots more buzz and real interaction over your decision process of what pricing point am I going to go for and how many. Now, this game for me sort of, I guess the best parallel would be something like the lemonade stand, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that, where you played it on your phone maybe or back in school, but you run in a lemonade stand. How much sugar do I buy? Oh, it spoils, or what's my price of lemonades? And this is what this is about, Smoothie Wars. But you're selling smoothies, but you've got multiple locations, and you're competing against other players here to decide and as I say, metagame as to what they are going to do. And I think it just works really, really well. Now, when you describe the game, selling smoothies, and you're just picking how many and the price, it sounded even to me like very rudimentary. And there's what's the game going to be like? What's the gameplay? But it actually works really, really well, and I'd highly recommend this game. So yeah, Smoothie Wars. Next up, we have a classic here, and it does such a super job. It's called Cuba. Now, why is it so super? Well, the art style is very elegant, and it kind of reminds me of that Pillars of the Earth type vibe, and I think they even did the same artwork. Yeah, I might be wrong on that, but yeah, it's a beautiful game. Very sort of straightforward mechanics. You're talking about a game from 2007, but it's a classic to me. You've got this sort of management of cards here, and that's the crux of the game. Is you're trying to choose which sort of individual. You've got like the mayor, you've got a worker, you've got your harvester, and I think that's the names. And basically you're picking who you're going to use to do something in the game. And maybe you want to go to the market and trade things to get other things, because then you want to send them with the mayor to the port to put them on a ship to get points. And there's just a host of that sort of production on your own player board here. And there's a little bit of sort of geography as the timing of when you trigger, your worker. So you can trigger a column in a row, and then that gives you more resource. But then you need to get that resource into your sort of shed here, otherwise it's going to spoil. And then you need to sell at a certain point to make money. And then there's other buildings you can upgrade your sort of plantation with and get VPs maybe, or exchanges where you can turn, tobacco into cigars or something like that. But there's loads of nice little things to develop your board here, which I really enjoy. And it's, I keep emphasizing the word streamlined and straightforward. And it is, because it is old school. There's no, groundbreaking mechanics here, but just does it really well. And I've tried the El Presidente expansion, which introduces a few new cards and this sort of mechanism with a donkey and what have you, and that works well if you can find a copy. But there's also this element of taxation and votes in this, because the cards you play from your hand, which I guess is similar to sort of something like Concordia, where you pick in, the strength of a card. But in this one, you get through them all, then they reset naturally at the end of a round. But if you keep your mayor, he's got more votes because he's more influential, and that voting then gives you power as to what policies will come into play. And those policies have a nice twist on the game, because if you go for something that favours, products you've stored, then you might be able to trade those in to get more victory points. So I like that sort of voting mechanism in this. Now, I've tried this, what did I say, 3 players and 4, was it? Or 3, I think I've tried 3 and 4. Would I go 5? Maybe it'd extend the length of play. It says 75 to 120 minutes. I do think you're looking at a 2-hour game here. And it says heavier complexity, which I don't necessarily think this is. I think this is sort of a medium complexity game. Once you got used to the symbology on the tokens and the building, you kind of, know what you're doing. But yeah, lots to like in Cuba. Next up, we are going similar complexity. It's a bit of a beast to learn, this one, but it's called Clans of Caledonia. Now, what an excellent game this is, and it's all about leading your unique Scottish clan to economic might via production, trade, and export. And that is bang on. You've got this sort of modular-like board, which does vary. You've got different goals you're trying to achieve. And essentially, you've got your player board, which you're trying to expand, and, well, not necessarily expand, but you're trying to you build up your capabilities to produce, cheese or bread or whiskey, or maybe get more workers out on the board. And it's just really satisfying sort of taking away these components on your player board, putting them out there, because you're getting more stuff, more production, more income. And I really like that. And as you expand your navigation capabilities, you can go further on the board and get synergies, and you can go next to other people and get discounts. And depending on what goals there are in the game is how you're going to maximize your points. You've also got a sort of little marketing, and you have these, what they call merchants now. And the more you get of those, the more capabilities you have to trade goods and get what you want. And you're trying to complete these goals. And this is what I really like about the game. It's got this unique sort of scoring mechanism where the lowest one is the most valuable, so you kind of want to push all of them up. For example, the hops will score points, and there's, I think it was tea or something, but there's a host of these sort of things moving around the score track there. And depending on how many symbols you got will be a multiplier of that as well. So, you can't just run away with one type of resource, because that actually be worth the fewest points. So I like that tug of war, and the time as to when you get these contracts, and the cost of them gets progressively more throughout the rounds, whereas they're free, or you even get money at the beginning of the game. Now, it plays 1 to 4. It's got a solo option, which I haven't tried. Well, I have actually tried on the Board Game Arena, and it was nice, but it's not quite the same. But yeah, it's a good platform to play as well. It says 30 to 120 minutes. I'm not really sure you're going to play this in 30 minutes. This is definitely sort of 2.5 hours. And there's lots to like here. Now, it is a really solid economic game. There's just everything you want in a game here with economics, with the market there, with the merchants, with getting, cost efficiencies, with going next to your opponents. But I guess it's lower down for me, because I've always struggled with the market and how you can really make the most of selling and buying. And I guess game to game, it feels very similar. There's lots of nice things to do, but it's the same from game to game. And it was something similar to like Yokohama, where you're doing the same stuff. It's a great design, great production, great game, but it's just the same. So for me, it falls short a little bit there, but I'd still happily play this any day of the week. Right. Next up, we have a game which for me is nostalgic. It's a game which I can play, even though it doesn't have a solo option. I've sort of house ruled it to make it solo. It's a game I thoroughly just enjoy playing, probably more solo. I don't think I could probably get many people to play with me, but it's called Crude the Oil Game. And it's an older game here, 1974. And it's all about you're playing as an oil company CEO, and you're trying to expand into an energy mega corporation. Now, there's no fancy mechanics here. It's a bit luck driven, but you're just eking out the most money. Now, you've got these excellent components, and on this board you've got this kind of triangle area, and as you roll 2 dice, it'll determine what they hit. And anything in the rows that they sort of cross path with will do something. Maybe it'll produce a gasoline or an oil. And then you've got these decisions over, right, am I going to sell these to the foreign market, the domestic market, if I'm going to build more infrastructure? And the components are excellent, guys. They're really, invigorating, and they pop out from the board. And it's just fun determining in this hex grid as to how you're going to, allocate these, how many, where you're going to put them, and how you're going to, make the most of probabilities of those getting hit. And you're just eking out money. And for me, the real strength in this is this flow of the economy. And you've got a bunch of cards, and it goes from recession to depression, and an upturn, and then you go to growth, and then you finally hit, rapid expansion and things like that. And as those vary, the actual price of infrastructure changes, the amount you can get for your gas and oil changes, and the consumer demand changes. And it's real core feeling of like an economy. You've got these news events that happen, and they are quite rigid, and they are based on the double dice being rolled, but they just add a little bit of flavour. But overall, for an oil game, for me, it's one of the best. And I've played quite a few now, Peak Oil, Wildcatters, but this as a solo game with just a bit of tweaking just works really well, and I absolutely adore it. Now, it's 2 to 4 players. I probably would play it with 4, but I think everyone would be a little bit bored of just the continuation of, rolling the dice and getting to 500 million first. But you do have interplay where their dice impact what you get, and you get benefits from that as well. But yeah, Crude the Oil game, 1 for me. Right, next up we have Furnace, which is a beast of a game, and it's lightweight, but it offers a real punch to this. You're getting a lot of game and a lot of core fun decision making, and it's essentially just a bunch of cards out there you're bidding on, but you've got this notion of so many tokens with so many numbers and the colors, and you can't go to a spot which got your color on. You equally can't go to a spot that's got the same number there. So there is some abilities and characters that break these rules, which just makes the whole game even more crunchier. But that's where the fun is trying to figure out, right, how am I going to win the location I want? Because it's a big engine building exercise. When you get these cards, you're going to turn these cubes into these things to get money, and you're just making the most money for the win. Are you going to achieve that in a sort of really streamlined 3 or 4 cards? Maybe even less. I've seen people win with less cards. Or maybe you're going to have a massive, monstrous row of cards, and they're all doing various things, and you might win that way. But honestly, I've seen so many different ways to win, and it's just been fascinating to play every time. You can play 2 to 4. I've had a lot of fun with all player counts. It feels very solo-like, and in the sense of, yes, there's more joy having more players to do the auction, but when it's actually you and you're all doing it simultaneously, it feels like you're doing your own little thing, and you're making, the satisfaction of turning this into that to get that card to do this. So I really enjoy that sort of production and engine building. It's lightweight, 30 to 60 minutes, which is bang on. The artwork is stunning, but equally, you're so involved in looking at the actual conversion rates or what resources you get. You don't even get the chance to really admire this, industrial look behind it. But the box is a great piece of art to have on your shelf. So yeah, a super game, this one. I haven't tried the expansion yet, but anything more Furnace, definitely give it a go. Okay, next we have a classic, and it has to be in here for me, and it's called Catan, or Settlers of Catan, however you want to know. And I've had this game. It's one of the first games I sort of got into, and it just has to be in here, mainly because I've had so much fun with this game over the years. Now, I know it gets criticised for the luck factor and the probability, but you make your own luck, and dependent on, and the game essentially is about negotiating various resources like, bricks, sheep, wheat, whatever it may be, with your opponents to get what you need to build these settlements, these cities, these roads. Maybe you're going to try and get the longest road to get VPs. The actual cities are with 2 VPs, the settlements are with 1 VP. But it's so exciting when you actually get to build something, and you see little areas being built and developing, and then the dice are rolled, and you're hitting the areas you've gone for with the best probabilities, like an 8 or a 6 or a 10 or something. Well, not so much a 10, but an 8 and a 6 for sure will yield you those resources to escalate your engine and get more things made. You've also got the cards which you're trying to attain to give you VPs or extra roads or extra resources. So for me, this game, the true joy of it is when you can just sit back, relax, have a few drinks with your family, and everyone's just having a good time, taking the mick over sheep jokes, and I'll trade you this for that. And that's where the joy of this is. It just brings a super atmosphere, more so for gamers who are new to the hobby, and it's great to see them experience the, the hand management and different mechanics they might not have come across in typical family lightweight games. But yep, 60 to 120 minutes is about bang on. 3 to 4 players. I've played a bunch with 3 and 4. I've bolted on the expansion for 5 players as well. There's loads of expansions, City and Knights, the Seafarers. So if you like this universe, there's loads to go and explore in as well. And it's lightweight complexity, so lots to like there. The last game this week we have is called Vegas Showdown. Now the cover art here is the reprint. I've not actually tried this version, even though it's identical to the previous one I've tried. And essentially in this game, you are bidding on restaurants, you're bidding on slot machines, lounges, to build up the best hotel and casino in all of Vegas. And that is bang on. Now, you've got this sort of player board in front of you, a little bit of criticism over the sort of quality of the components here. It's like paper in the version I played. But the concept in the game is really clever. You're all bidding on these various tiles, and gradually as things get left there from round to round, they go cheaper with these sort of red markers here. And eventually you're going to slot those into your casino and hotel. Now, one side is about your sort of slots and your gambling. The other side's about food. Some of them are neutral, the green ones, and you're trying to hook these up. Once you've made a continuous path, there's points there. There's sort of connectors between the angles of them. You can get points that way. And if you get certain ones, you can upgrade them when they come out. And there's a bit of luck as to what timing things come out. Because if something that's sort of level, well, they're not known as levels, but if a fancy restaurant comes out and you haven't even got a restaurant, are you going to hog that and keep it, aside because you're trying to manage your money well? You've also got this interesting balance of, I think it was population and income, and it's the least one that's going to score, your income there or your points. So you got this balance of which one are you going to strive for and how much money you're going to be bidding on things. So if you like bidding, you like something that's light-hearted and sort of Vegas, and you can get to build your own little area here. And it generally feels like you are building a hotel. It's a lot of fun. Now, it's 3 to 5 players. I've played 3 and 4 players. Works really nicely. Never had a chance to try it 5, really. It's mainly a game I play with my family. 75 minutes. I'd probably set up to about 90 minutes. And it's a lightweight game here. But lots to like. Go and give this new version a go. But yeah, there we are, the 10 games this week. Hopefully something there has caught your attention. Thanks all for watching. See you all soon. Bye for now.